where's my kiss at? Hold up, it's been a day, where have you been? Chillin' with some friends on the west end. She said I saw you in a story with that one chick. You know the one you got drunk with. When we started dating you were being reckless. Look babe, it's not what you think. She pulls away and pours another drink. Yeah, yeah. Gotta find my way to you, even though you're next to me. No matter what I do, your heart is drifting out of reach. Head underwater, I'm swimming harder, trying to keep this alive. Gotta find my way to you, now that our love has capsized. Hello, where's my kiss at? Hold up, it's been a day, where have you been? Chillin' with some friends on the west end. She said I saw you in a story with that one chick. You know the one you got drunk with. When we started dating you were being reckless. Look babe, it's not what you think. She pulls away and pours another drink. Yeah, yeah. Gotta find my way to you, even though you're next to me. No matter what I do, your heart is drifting out of reach. Head underwater, I'm swimming harder, trying to keep this alive. Gotta find my way to you, now that our love has capsized. Find my way to you, even though you're next to me. No matter what I do, your heart is drifting out of reach. Head underwater, I'm swimming harder, trying to keep this alive. Gotta find my way to you, now that our love has capsized. Capsized. say how I feel, to know I let you down. These late nights turn to days, don't wanna let you down. With each breath we give away, it'll never be the same. I'm chasing somebody who won't ever ease the pain, but I don't want half of your heart, heart, heart. You can have it back if it's only half of your heart.
It's getting brighter, I've been up all night. You've been my world, and don't have light. Getting you closer, it's harder than I ever thought in my whole life. Hey, where are you now? I know that you need someone around. You know you can blame it all on me, so don't mind if you get lost again. Cause I'm getting lost in it, cause I'm getting lost in it. And I can let go like this, and tell me you need me too. Cause I'm getting lost on you, cause I'm getting lost in it. And I can let go like this, and tell me you need me too. Cause I'm getting lost on you. Cause I'm getting lost on you. It's getting brighter, I've been up all night. You've been my world, and don't have light. Getting you closer, it's harder than I ever thought in my whole life. Hey, where are you now? I know that you need someone around. You know you can blame it all on me, so don't mind if you get lost again. Cause I'm getting lost in it, cause I'm getting lost in it. And I can let go like this, and tell me you need me too. Cause I'm getting lost on you, cause I'm getting lost in it. And I can let go like this, and tell me you need me too. Cause I'm getting lost on you. Cause I'm getting lost on you. Cause I'm getting lost on you. Hey, where are you now? I know that you need someone around. You know you can blame it all on me,
Welcome to the live stream. Let me just get the music off.
Hello.
Off. Okay. Switch it over to me. Welcome to the live stream. Today we are going through a new case review. My name, first of all, is Brian. I'm from Boot Once, and we're going to be reviewing the Jonsbo C6. Yep, C6. So let's take a quick look at it first. When we did receive this case, we did get a little problem, and that little problem happens to be that we received it damaged, but it's not going to affect taking a look at this build for right now. Let me get the overhead on, and almost blew my head. Okay, we'll take a look at this case. So camera 2. All right, so first of all, what came damaged was one of the feet. But they are replacing the case. They're sending me a new one just for one broken foot. But this happens. You know, the case was damaged from the box from the outside. It looks like UPS kind of like mangled it. But the case itself is very small. It actually pretty much fits in frame. It's a very small case, very rectangular in design. All the sides pretty much are all vented. Sorry about the sound of that. There's all the screws in there moving around. On the front part of the case, there is still a power button, USB-A connector, which is still a 3.2, as well as a USB-C 3.2, and an audio jack, combo mic jack. So, and there's also a light on the power switch for the power light. There is no reset switch on this unit, but they're kind of phasing that in anyway. Usually if you have to reset, you can just hold the power button down. All of this is toolless to open, but it still requires tools to assemble. Now on the bottom of this case, we had a small little problem, which we're going to show here, is that a few of the feet, ooh, that's really going crazy. There he goes. A few of the feet are fine. Then we got one that's having to get destroyed. So I'm going to probably take these feet off just for now so I can work, but there should be 4 feet down here at the bottom. I just don't want it to keep jiggling around while I'm working. So I'm just going to take the feet off for our purposes. But you know, if we return it to a client, or if we build this for a client, it will obviously come with all proper 4 feet. Take those out of here, as well as we're going to take that last one out on this side. That last screw. Now there's also a filter on the bottom. This filter also can come off when you take the feet off. If you want to clean the unit, you can take that off to clean the unit. There are some extra screws here for the front panel connector. You don't need to unscrew those to take the filter off. Filter, of course, you would want to leave it on during normal operation, so it keeps all the dust out of your system. This is the bottom of the case. Let's flip it over. It also has some fan mounts on the bottom as well. But more importantly, it is toolless, so you can just push one button and the whole entire top piece comes off. It has these little mini latch connectors here that go into the area on the top, which push straight in, and they snap in. They all snap in, so it's pretty easy. There's only one way to put this. There's 2 on this side, 1 on that side. There's only 1 on here, 2 on that side. So you just push this back down to close it back down. Same thing again, push it once to put it back up. Take it out. You can also now take off the side panels. So all the side panels pop out as well. They're just toolless, so you just pull them straight out. There's the same type of mesh panel all the way across. That's good for cleaning and for keeping the system clean. It's going to be very easy to clean out. Again, same thing. We're going to pull off this mesh panel here. Same thing for that side. And we're going to also pull off the mesh panel in the front of the unit, so that we have it fully cleared off. Now the one in the front obviously is a different cutout for the front panel connectors, so that one will obviously go back in the same position. Once it's out, you'll notice that it's just basically a big kind of rectangular-ish, maybe squarish feeling case, which is all we really need. This is a very, 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 very small case. Let me get the dimensions also when I get a chance. Probably get a ruler out for that. Probably should have had a ruler. It does come with the manual. Manual is very simple. It just explains all the screws, explains all of where the panels go, how to push them back together, etc. Now the manual does have a mistake in here, which I saw before. Yeah, it says motherboard installation, but it has directions for a graphic card installation, so that's a little weird. But everything else is pretty close to correct. It doesn't really need to be fully 100%. They do include a front panel connector, which is kind of nice for all of the LEDs. They're all straightforward. Instead of having to play with all those little LEDs, it has F panel connector in the front. You just plug this straight into the connection on the motherboard. Instead of connecting all of them individually, they're already in one little square block, which is kind of nice, so you don't have to separate them. Now this is going to become a question of, is this lined up correctly? We will find out when we go to put the test motherboard in and see if it actually works. Hopefully it does. Same thing for USB, it's just one connector, and as well as the audio is only one connector, HD audio. We're going to connect, we're going to try building in this today. We're just going to build into it. We're not going to do a total guide build. It's just going to be basically a build based off of how this unit is laid out. So motherboard goes down here, which has already got the stand-ups on it. Your top piece over here and your front piece here are for fans, as well as for any type of SSDs or stuff like that. Seems simple. Lois says seems simple. Yeah, it really is. I mean, this is the simplest case I found. We like to keep simple cases because our customers, first of all, like a simple design. They don't like when there's too much flashy stuff going on. So we try to pick designs that are just make common sense, that aren't too expensive either, because nobody really wants to spend a lot of money on a case when it comes to a business computer. You know, it's just an item on a desk at this point, so they don't really care too much about design. So this is really no frills design, you know, type of case. So it will fit a standard micro ATX motherboard. It will also fit a mini ITX motherboard. It will not fit a full ATX motherboard. A full ATX motherboard will not fit in this case because obviously it's a lot longer than just the case design here. So yeah, there's a little bit of a trade-off with this. Also, if you have to build or modify anything in here, the power supply goes right here in this little area here, which covers the motherboard. So this becomes a little bit of a challenge when you gotta upgrade something on the motherboard. It's gonna be really difficult to reach. You may have to take the power supply out for it to, you know, to manage it. Now, most of the time when we're working on customers' computers, we really don't need to disassemble anything after we've got it assembled. So there's not really many times that we upgrade. Most of the time people replace. But they can also upgrade the unit too. There is some upgradability that you can still switch out motherboards. They're all standard parts. So if something fails, it's not like they have to wait for a part to come in to be able to replace it. We could just replace it with whatever is in standard in stock. Now, that being said, this case being very small, it's only going to fit certain fan heights because right now this space between here and down to the motherboard is very minimal. So it's probably going to fit regular stock coolers or low profile coolers for your CPU. We're going to be testing with an AMD system and an AMD motherboard. So you got some RAM for that. Yeah, we're going to be testing with an AMD motherboard with a regular standardized cooler. Nothing really fancy. We're not going to go through a full system boot with this. I already assembled some of the parts just so we can go a little bit quicker and let's actually put this in here. This is just a test motherboard we have with a test IO shield, but it has a regular test cooler. So by test cooler, I mean just a regular standard stock cooler. This is something that would come stock with the processor that you purchase. AMD comes with what they call a Wraith cooler. It's the same thing, Stealth Wraith or whatever they call it. It's fancy for heatsink and fan. The other thing that we really want to test is fit and fitability of how it's going to connect and, you know, put in place. So this will not allow you to go much higher than what we already have here. This is pretty high even for this. I'm going to see if this actually even fits in here. Honestly, it may not. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to put some RAM in just so that we make sure we have RAM clearance. Probably fine, but you never know. So I'm going to throw some RAM in there just so we have a full test. We're not going to do a full boot. We're just going to do a quick test to make sure that everything fits, how it fits, how easy it is to repair, how easy it's going to be to upgrade if we have to upgrade something in the future. etc. This is probably not the best way of handling this. Okay. It's not, there we go. So I'm just going to pop in the 2 round chips. This again is a test motherboard. It's just for test fit and not really for booting and stuff, but we could boot it if we wanted to. It is a working board, supposedly. All right, I'm going to put the I/O shield in because you noticed I almost forgot it again, and it wouldn't be really complete without an I/O shield, as much as that's really annoying. So the I/O shield goes right where the motherboard's going to lay out into. Again, just pop it in. We're not going to do a full tutorial here, but just to give you an example of what's going on, it should pop in. That moved a little bit because this is a little flimsy here that I noticed. So that might be bad coming down. You know, if somebody pushes a little too hard, you might end up bending that in. Layout we have for the screws are almost correct. It's only 1 off, which I don't know if it came with any extra stand-ups. Let's see. What it comes with looks like we got some wire ties, which are actually useful. Good wire ties. Screws. All right, screws are nicely labeled. SSD. I say nicely labeled, and then this one's not labeled. I'm going to assume that's a spare motherboard piece and spare other one. Let's take a look. What else we got? Yeah, nothing else is labeled, just the one for SSD. I'm going to assume these are for the motherboard because they're not labeled. And we got some fan screws and a Velcro piece. I don't know, we don't need that. All right. Screws, okay, that also came with it are a little bridging thing, which I have no idea what that is. Probably for cable holding or something like that. This is basically your fan screws. Those are for like your fans that are part of the case fans. We're going to keep those just in case, but most of the time your case fan comes with it. At least I think it does. Should buy cheaper ones. For this case, since it's so small, I would recommend mounting a intake fan, at least in the front. That's what these little bars are. These bars are removable and you can adjust them. We're not going to install a fan, but when you install a fan, it's basically you can do 120. I think you can even do a 140 here pretty clearly, but 120 definitely with no issue. Same thing on the top. We have some top bars. You can adjust these bars on the length going either direction, and that'll allow you to put in a 120 or 140 in there with no issue. You could also put in some water cooling if you wanted to. If you're going to do a water cooling unit, I would recommend doing something like an all-in-one. It's going to be really tight if you're going to do something with custom water cooling. By the way, I found out what that plastic piece is. That's this. This plastic piece are these for these little clips here for the side panels. So I guess if this wears down, you've got another one just in case you need to replace one. Shouldn't be a problem unless that is a problem. But maybe they're just giving you extra for giving you extra. All right, so I'm going to just change the position of one of these motherboard stand-ups so we can actually mount the motherboard properly. So one of them is in a wrong position, so we're just going to move it from this position here. Just going to unscrew it and then move it into the proper position, which is 1 down. 1 down? No, it's not 1 down. Sorry, I almost made that mistake. It's 2 down. It's 2 down. Wow, it's going to be really close at the bottom. That nicely and tight. Okay. Dropping things. All right. I'm just trying to take out all the screws for the motherboard. They do have some washers, which is interesting. I'm not sure why they have washers. Not sure. I thought we stopped using washers a long time ago. But this case happens to come with washers for the screws. There's a lot of washers. A lot of screws. I don't think we need to use the washers. Let me just drop. I dropped something in there. All right, I'm going to just take these out and see what we got. So, a lot of washers. These are all the same screw. Yeah, these are all the same screw. They all have washers. I'm not going to use the washers for the motherboard because the motherboard already has metal protective like solder areas, so that's fine. Proper grounding. You really don't need washers for that. Unless you have an older motherboard, I guess. You know, that makes sense. All right, so we got RAM in there. We got everything basically placed. We're just going to slide this in to the case. Obviously, I put this in before I put the power supply in because the power supply goes on top of all this. Line it up with the I/O shield like usual, like we normally do. And it's not lining up. Oh, this is what we run into. I don't want to get too much pressure here. There we go. Is the I/O shield really tight? This is why I like to test these cases before we go to sell one, is because this is a little tight for the back panel. It does fit, it's just a little tighter than I would like it to see on a case. This means that, you know, if we have a board that's a little bit bigger than a micro ATX, it will definitely not fit in here. That's an MATX. Why am I dropping things? It's very bad. All right. So let's get that screw in place. And let me see how bad it is before I go any further. Yeah, see this side. This side here is a little bit tight. This is a little tight here for my liking for the I/O shield. Maybe I didn't push it normally. No, it's flattened out. It's just a little bit, the screws don't exactly line up 100% down below. That might be a deal breaker. But let's continue on and see if it grounds anything out. Because this is a test motherboard, but it should still boot. So we will see. It's not really touching the case, but it is a little closer than I would like. I always like to see a little bit of wiggle room. Just in case one or two motherboards are a little bit bigger or smaller. I mean, most of the time they're exactly the same size, but sometimes you get that one little oddball out. And if you don't have that type of flexibility, it would be a really bad day. I just touched the thing too, that was great. Something to think about. There we go, got it. This type of small case, I would have to say definitely get another system fan, either for exhaust or intake. I would probably prefer intake more. Exhaust usually is kind of a natural situation. You don't really have to exhaust most stuff. Most of the time intake is most of the hard work. Okay, so that's all in place. The board is tight in there. I just don't like how this is really pushed up. Like, you see how this is pushing out a little? I'm not sure if you guys can see this on camera, but this is pushing out and is beveled up a little bit here, unless I might have missed something on the I/O shield, but I don't think I did. It's like really pushed up. So the only bad thing is this HDMI connector is a little bit, see, like this is a little bit flimsy like that. That could push it out of the socket. So we'll see when we go to plug it in. Unless I missed something. Did I not put the I/O shield all the way in? I hate new cases sometimes. Testing is so important. push that. No, you can't push it from this side. I think this side's not pushed all the way up. Yeah, I think I might have missed this corner. This corner I might have missed. But let me try to get it with a flathead screwdriver and just pop it in place. Somehow that didn't click in, which makes me feel like that may be my fault. That could be my fault. Probably. Is this protected on this side? Of course it's protected on this side. Why would it not be protected on that side? Let's pop that in. Yeah. I don't think it's affecting anything. So my fault that I should probably push this a little bit more up, because if you look at this on this angle here, you can see that it's kind of like going downwards. It's not fully pushed up in that corner, which makes me feel like I thought I pushed that all the way in. So maybe because this was so flimsy in the back that I didn't realize I didn't push it all the way in. It's not the end of the world. We'll leave it for now. Something to note. It's probably why the IO shield's not 100% seated. All right, let's continue on. I'm going to do the front panel connectors next because it's going to be harder after I get the power supply in. I really won't be able to connect anything else up. I'm going to see if this connects the correct way. So it's got to block out one way. Blockout is on top. I don't know how that's gonna. Oh, that might work. Power light. Oh, there's no hard drive light. Oh no, maybe that's the hard drive light. No, that's the power light. So power light. There's no hard drive light. There's just a power light and a power button. That's it. So that would work. All right, that's fine. Let's put the audio on. Let's see if it fits. Audio fits this way. Audio. It's the easiest connectors because there's almost no connections here. USB 3.0 header. My test motherboard does not have a USB 3.0 header. All right, that's rare. That's just me having a cheap motherboard in here, but that would get connected somewhere. That's fine. For now purposes, we'll just put it off to the side. Again, we're not going to really test the workability of it. It's just, will it connect? And it does have enough. It does have a connection here. It would normally go like around here somewhere on the board, but it's not available, so it's just fine. Just fine for now. All right, let's get the power supply in front. We're gonna put the test power supply in. Doesn't have any other brackets except for what's already here, so I'm gonna assume the fan has to go on the outside like this because it would have to breathe in fresh air. I wouldn't think it would be face down to the processor, so we're gonna have to go the opposite way. Let's pull all these cables out of the way here. Just get out of the way, stay, okay. All right, so I'm gonna have to probably plug in all the cables before then because I can't really reach this one down here without really difficult aspects with that. When I put that back in place, so I'm going to put that down in place first, which is the CPU. That's PCI Express. This is CPU. PCI Express. Really? All right, hold on 1 second. This test power supplies all over the place. Here's CPU. All right, so CPU is an 8. The CPU is an 8. I'm just going to combine this back together. Just separate it for a different test. Okay, I'll plug that in on the upper corner there. Now this is the tricky part because now you got to hold with one hand the power supply at the same time you're plugging in all these cables. Let's see. Not the right way. There's the notch on this. Notch is on this side. This motherboard is very old, this test motherboard. I think I probably should have to get a new test board. Hello, someone's waving. That's why you're doing what you see. Yeah, this basically, yeah. So that's why you were doing this, to see if what is needed and what's a good choices for, right? Yes, that's correct. Basically, we're seeing if this case is going to be a viable option for our customers, to make sure that everything fits in properly, that everything's looking correctly, that everything, you know, it's not too hard to work on, that it becomes like, you know, are we sacrificing form over function kind of thing? You know, is it actually better in the aspect of, will this system be able to hold up over time without problems with it overheating? Are we able to clean it, etc.? Those are kind of the things that are going through my head a little bit on, is it going to fit everything that we need to fit without too much stress and pressure here? Our biggest problem with our other cases that we currently offer is that their cases are a little too large. And most of our customers wanted something a little smaller. So that's why I'm testing out a smaller case to see if this will fit. It's an inexpensive smaller case, but it may be badly laid out. I feel like this is also very tight compared to what we normally have. So we're gonna have a lot of cables just sitting around. Let me get 4 screws for the power supply really quick. I don't have those because this is a test power supply and I didn't think to take out 4 screws for it, which would make sense. Should have done that. Not a big deal. Just get a box of screws. I'll find one, or 4. All right. Hopefully without dropping anything. Okay, 1, 2. You know, your screws come with the power supply usually, so, but since it's a test power supply, those screws are long gone. 4, there we go. All right. I have a feeling we're probably going to be a little tight on keeping the space between this processor and the actual power supply once I put this in. I feel like this is going to be a little bit tricky. So let me pop this in. Obviously it's the test power supply. So let's take a look here. Let's get that kind of lined up. Now, this is kind of tricky because you're going to need 2 hands on one hand on the power supply at the same time you're screwing it with the other. So you may need an electric screwdriver for this. It's a possibility. Now it does, after 1 screw's in there, it is holding. So you really don't need to have your other hand. You can put your other hand available for actually putting the thing on the screw. This is ridiculous today. What is with this bit? I think there's something wrong with my bit here. It's not gripping. Let me grab the last screw, which I dropped. Come here. Okay. So, this needs to be further out. There you go. Okay. The last one. All right, so once that's in place, it is solid. It's not moving anywhere. But clearance between the power supply and the processor, let's flip this over. There's a lot of cable. This clearance here is pretty small. We got about at about a 1-inch clearance between here and there. So you get an idea, that's not that much between here and there. We could always, the only bad point about this case is we would have to make sure that we have a cooler that is low profile. Now obviously it fits a stock cooler with no issue. So we usually use the stock cooler for a lot of our builds. But if we had to go anything more than that, we would have to use something like low profile, like a Noctua, what's it called? Noctua makes a few low profile fan coolers, just in case we wanted to do that, or we could do something like a Be Quiet one. I think is pretty small too. But most of the other ones are pretty like tower based. They're kind of big. So cables are going to be another big problem here. If you notice, all this has got to fit in there. So I would probably recommend getting a modular power supply at that point, because that would get rid of all this cable mess. So you wouldn't be able to have to deal with having to tie all this up. But I would have to tie all of this mess into, you know, the front panel of the case. It's going to be like something like this. I'm just going to jam it in there just to show you guys an example. But this is kind of where it would have to end up, which is kind of meh. It's a really meh area. This is a bad area for this, because the only other area you have is this spot, and the only area you could really put a fan is either here, or you'd have to move it down. So I would probably recommend, if we're going to go this route, if they get a you know, a power supply that has plugs on it, you know, so you're basically, you can eliminate a lot of these cables, then that would eliminate, you know, having a problem with airflow. Really, it's about airflow. Lois said, wow, is it worth all of that? Yeah, it really isn't. You're getting a smaller case out of this too, so I don't know. I feel like this might be a little bit tight for somebody, but then again, this fits on a desk really nicely. So if you have a lot of if you don't have a lot of room on your desk, this works out really well, because then you can fit this on your desk with no problem. But there's going to be some negatives to this. Obviously, you know, a modular power supply is going to be a must, so that you can avoid all this extra garbage. And then on top of that, you're going to have to make sure that your cooler is very, you know, very low profile. Now again, it is fitting a regular size standard cooler that comes with most processors. That is what we usually use 90% of the time. You don't really see us build a lot of the custom coolers. I say custom, but it's not custom. It's just, you know, third party, I guess, third party coolers. You really don't see a lot of we don't really do a lot of third party coolers, but if we did, this is not one of the cases that we really could fit in. We'd have to use a low profile third party cooler. And we'd have to use something really low profile, because we only have really an inch between that and the power supply itself. This is also a standard regular ATX power supply. It's the standard length. They also make an SFX power supply, which is about half the length. So that's not half the length. It's about a little less than a quarter less than this, what we have here. Most of those are modular as well. So you'll have a lot more room if you do an SFX power supply. That's another option. They do have options here. It just becomes costly when you start to reach those options, because every time you go smaller, everything becomes a little more expensive. So to make it fit. Now, graphic card wise, let me just put this up a little bit. If you dare to put a graphic card in this thing, you do have room. This slot is outside of the room of this power supply. So you do have room for putting in a card where my hand is going. That's exactly where you put the graphic card. It does have a long enough length for maybe a 2-fan graphic card. I would not go with 3-fan. 3-fan would really be pushing to the edge of this case, and I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. So, oh, there is a USB 3.0 connection. Look at that. I missed it. It's down there. So I'm gonna plug that in. Actually, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, this will fit stuff. It's just gonna be a nightmare to work on. I think that most people, if they're a brand new person, I wouldn't work on this case. Technician-wise, for cleaning, this isn't too bad because it's very lightweight. You could either just take all the panels off over here, take all these panels, bring them outside, and just brush them out if the dust stays within the panels. If they don't, then they would be taking this whole entire small unit and trying to clean out everywhere in between. I would probably imagine that if we were to have this case running for, let's say, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, most of the dust is going to be from the CPU fan in here, the power supply fan, I'm sorry, the power supply fan pulling in dust, which is going to be really hard to clean out, since you're going to have to take it out of the case to clean it, pretty much, and then clean underneath the processor. You really can't get I mean, you could get a fan, you can get one of the cleaners in there, like one of the airbrush cleaners, but you're not going to be able to hold the CPU fan down because you won't be able to put your finger underneath there at the same time. So what we do when we do to clean something, we would have to hold down the fan, the CPU fan, while we blow it out, because you don't want the fan rushing around. It's going to cause problems. You really want to be able to blow it out by holding down the fan and then putting air across it. So doing that would require a person to put their hand down and behind this entire unit, which you can't even see because there's so much cabling. I'd have to hold with one thumb and then have to be able to spray in from the other side. I wouldn't really want to do that. This would be a lot easier if there was, I'd have to say, you know what, if this was a modular power supply, there wouldn't be a problem. Because if this is a modular power supply, then all of these cables would be gone. So we'd have plenty of room to be able to get our hand down there and actually clean it. So really the rule of thumb is if we did decide to sell this case, I would have to say to the customer that we would have to go modular power supply. We would have to upgrade to maybe a better cooler situation and add a fan. If I really wanted to say to run this thing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week without any problems. This is going to be a lot of compromises. I don't know if a lot of customers would want to go for a compromise like that. This case is also a little bit cheaper than something like a Thermaltake H17, which is like our standard. Our H17 is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more expensive. And when I'm talking about a little bit more expensive, I'm talking maybe like $5, $10 difference, by the way. We're not talking a huge difference here. This is only about $5 to $10 cheaper. And it is okay, but you're going to spend more than $5 or $10 more for a modular power supply and maybe a better cooler. So, or maybe an air intake fan. An air intake fan is still going to be about $7, $8, even for the cheap ones. So this is one of those things where I would say yes, if the customer really wants something really compact, we have the option. But I don't think this is going to be our regular daily go-to case for our customers. The H17 from Thermaltake really does fit like most of our situations. But I also noticed that they're starting to stop stocking it. So I have a feeling they're going to probably discontinue the product, or they're going to go into something like the H18 where it's got a glass side panel, which is not what we want. By the way, if you notice, we also took things that don't have glass side panels. We don't want people seeing inside the case. It's just always a mess anyway. And for this type of case, it would be really a mess. It's really tight. So there's really no reason to even go into it. But let's give it a boot, just to boot it for the hell of it, to see if the fans spin and it doesn't get caught on everything. Let me just also pull all these wires out of the way for now. I'm just going to push them down here, but normally we would tie them down. I just want them away from the fan so we can see if it boots. And then we could also see a little bit better clearance. Let me take the feet off out of here. Feet are gone. Let's turn this. Yeah, this is kind of, if you even from this side panel, you see it, like actually you can see pretty clearly. This is where the CPU fan is done, and then that's where the power supply is. It's like about 1 inch there. It's pretty tight. So let's boot it. I have a feeling when this boots up, it's really a tight connection here. I really feel like this may be one of those things where I'm like, I may not even want to sell anything smaller and maybe not bother with this. But I'll have to weigh that a little later and see what's going on. Let's power it on. Let's not give it the worst right up yet until we figure out what's going on here. Let's give it an actual boot. I mean, everything in this case is still standard, which is nice, because a lot of the smaller cases will only fit ITX motherboards. ITX motherboards are really small, really expensive. They are smaller. They are nicer for the fact that they're smaller, and you will be able to fit more into a case. All right, so we're ready to power this on. Okay, everybody cross their fingers. Hopefully nothing sparks alive here. There we go. Okay. Let me switch over to 4. Turn me on. Yeah. Let's see if it boots. It might boot. Might not. Let's put them over. I'm not sure if this one requires a graphic card. Just realized. Why do I feel like this system requires a graphic card? This one requires a graphic card. Of course, I chose the only test motherboard that requires a graphic card. This is typical me. All right, anyway. Well, that was fun. You just purchased this, Marcos. You just purchased this case. Nice. It does, by the way, it does fit everything. I mean, it does. I mean, unless you have a really long graphic card, then you're really kind of screwed. But I can't believe I chose a case that doesn't, motherboard that only has a graphic card. Where did I put my test graphic card? That's not the test one. All right, that sucks. I'm pretty sure this requires a graphic card. Let me unplug this. Let's switch back to the overhead. Put this back in place. Let's see what we got. I think I did it. I'm pretty sure this case requires, I mean, this motherboard requires a graphic card. 98% sure. Knowing me and knowing how much I test stuff, and let's see. By the way, this is a nice, by the way, Marcos, this is a really, I'm going to say Marcos, right? I hopefully got the right name. Marcos, this is a really nice case. It is just very small. This is the only bad thing. So, like, if you're not concerned with upgradability, it's probably perfectly fine. But putting a graphic card in here is going to be really, really tight. Like, that's the slot for the graphic card there. So that's going to be a little bit, that's going to be a little tight there. Why is it coming in yellow? That's weird. Bought the micro ATX version, so I wanted to change the, okay, so Marco says, I purchased the micro ATX version, so I want to change the power in front and put a CPU cooler, different CPU cooler. All right, yeah, if you're doing a CPU cooler, you're gonna need a lot of, you're gonna have to get something like very low profile for that to work, because there is very little room in here. If you see here, this is like barely 1 inch of space here between your cooler and the actual power supply. Now, if you did an SFX power supply, you'll have a little bit more clearance, but it's not going to be much because it's still kind of like oriented over the CPU. So this is going to be a little bit tight. You could also do a CPU cooler. You could do like a, whatchamacallit, an all-in-one CPU cooler if you want. An all-in-one will do it, all-in-one water cooling, because it does have room for it. Like in the front here, this is the back. I wouldn't probably put it on top. The top is kind of really limited in space. You could either go to the bottom with the CPU cooler or in the front. If you do go in the front though, you're gonna still be kind of limited. I'd probably get a power supply that doesn't have, that has, you know, like a modular power supply, so you can unplug a lot of the stuff so you have a little more room. But this is a really tight case. It's really, really tight. So it's a lot of trade-offs that you're gonna get for that. Another few options, if you really want to go with a better cooler and you want to have a little bit more room, you can go with either Thermaltake H17, or you can go with, you know, there's a lot of other options that are pretty decent for the same price or around about it. You can also go with, the Fractal has one, Core 1100 is pretty cheap. That also has probably a little bit better layout than this one does. But this is really, really the smallest case that you can pretty much get. I do like the I do like the case. I just think it's a little hard to work on. But if you're not constantly upgrading and you're not really worried about your graphic card being too long, I would say this is a really decent sized case for the price. You know, it's not bad. And the front does, you know, the case itself looks good. I'm going to close it up. I'm going to try to find a graphic card too to test with, because you can try to fit something in there. But I wanted to see this closed up because we want to see if it actually fits everything that we said it would fit without closing on itself. These aren't just pop-in panels, they just pop right in, which is kind of nice. That's very easy to use. I don't know if these are, no, these don't make a difference. Everything is well ventilated in this case though. I have to say that there's lots of holes, there's lots of room for, you know, for air movement. That's a positive. And the aspect that there's no like glass or anything. I don't know if they make this side with glass on the side, but I did get the one without the glass. Let me share a YouTube video with my custom idea. Wait a second. Okay. All right, cool. I don't know if you can you guys share links on there? I don't even know if you can. We'll take a look. All right. But closed up, it's a beautiful looking case. It's not bad looking. It's very simple. It's a little heavy when you got everything in there, but not too bad. You know, the front of it's pretty nice too. The front of it's not bad. It's like you're flipping everything around. It's very easy to move around. This is very, I mean, the case itself is very, very light. You know, obviously front panel, power, etc. Okay. Oh, it's just on that thing. Power, USB, USB-C. The USB-C connector is nice because it doesn't require a USB-C connection on the inside. It only requires USB 3.2. And that's on most motherboards, so it doesn't require like that special little weird adapter that you need in there. It will work fine. And the light on here is pretty bright when I turned it on. It is extremely bright, so that's positive. I'll let you know at least your system is on. This was a test motherboard too. I don't know which motherboard I tested with this and this one, but obviously it requires a graphic card. Power supply, you know, it lines up nicely in the back. No issues. As long as you mount it, you know, mount the fan towards the outside of the case so you're bringing in some air, it should be fine. The only bad thing about this, I guess, is that you probably have to like really clean this thing, you know. When there's a lot of dust, I can see this getting pretty dusty on the top, so. But you take the panels off. The panels are so easy to remove on here. It's not even funny. There's just one button, and that's it. All the panels are, you know, you could just pop these off with your fingers. You know, it's not that difficult. And they slide in really easily, you know, compared to almost anything else, so. I can't say it's bad. I just don't know how many people we would want to build in this case, because the trade-offs for cost are going to be one of the little problems. You know, having to deal with, you know, smaller components and also a modular power supply. I have to check to see how expensive a modular power supply has gotten over the years. I think they've actually come down in price. So if they're around the same price, the modular power supply is the only thing I think really holding me back on saying this case would be really, really great, is the fact that I'd probably have to go with a modular power supply. But let's take a look, and I'm not going to go crazy, but let's just take a quick look and see if I can find a modular power supply for pretty cheap. And if I can find a power supply for pretty cheap, then I'm going to say this case is definitely a positive compared to buying, you know, just an inexpensive power supply. Let me switch over to the other screen for a second. And let's go to, what's on Firefox here? All right, so let's go to Newegg. Newegg. You can go anywhere you want. I'm just going to Newegg as an example. Components and storage. Power supplies. Okay. And let's go. I only trust certain manufacturers, so what the hell? Manufacturer, there it is. Show more. I'm okay with EVGA. I'm okay with Thermal Take, Corsair. Be Quiet is okay. I feel like Seasonic's going to be really expensive, but we'll try it anyway. Let's apply that. And then we're going to apply a few more little changes. I hate this new look. There's no option for modular? Oh, I'm in Newegg deals. How do we get to Newegg deals? Yeah. Computers. Here's just the components. Power supplies. Oh my god. Is this the right thing? Oh, I hate when they change the website. They're making my life horrible. All right. Let's do... Why am I in Newegg deals? All right, let me just type in power supplies. Let's... Power supply. Yeah, that's better. I don't know why did they screw up the other one? I don't know. Okay. Making my life harder. All right. Let's go. Let's see. Modular, yes, fully modular. Actually, semi-modular may work also. Fully modular or semi-modular is fine. Where's the manufacturer? I totally missed manufacturer. Manufacturer. None of those. EVGA, Thermal Take. I don't need Supermicro, that's crazy. Corsair, it's fine. Corsair. Good for at home or at desk use. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this really has no excuse not to be on the desk. I wouldn't put this thing on the floor. That would be a bad idea. What else do we have? What did I say? Thermal Take, that. Okay, let me apply the filter for now. Let's just get an idea. Lowest costs. So Thermal Take is a semi-modular for $69. Okay, it's not horrible. I was expecting that to be a lot higher than that. You know, right now prices are a little bit high too. So $79 again. That's a 750 watt. That's a, you know, 650 watt for $10 cheaper, I think. Yeah, $10 cheaper. It's not impossible. That price is just about the same as a regular power supply anyway. I mean, the regular non-modular power supply is a little bit cheaper by about $10 to $15. So for $10 more, and you got a case that fits everything else, it's perfectly fine. I probably wouldn't recommend a graphic card in here. I mean, a graphic card would be a little tight. So, you know, a graphic card would be pretty tight. I'd have to say it's a little bit difficult for that. Let me share a YouTube video. Marcos, did you share a YouTube video? I didn't. Did that come up? Stupid chat thing probably is all screwed up. Does it allow you to even send you a link? Probably not, knowing this thing. I do have a Discord. Did I open my Discord? No, I did not. I am so bad about this stuff. All right, well, we'll figure out that later. So, my conclusion on this, it depends. If you are really short on space, this is a perfect case for that. It does fit everything that's standard. But if you were going to put a graphic card in here, I would have to really rethink the layout. And you could put a graphic card in here, but I would have to like spend a little extra time maybe with cable management, putting in a modular power supply, taking all those cables out of there. So at least we have less cables inside the unit and have more airflow. I'd probably also put 2 fans in the front. If we could fit 2 120s in the front, that would be the best solution so that you don't have to do too much work. Let me just get this off. I don't know if you could fit two well, you could fit one. Yeah, you could probably fit two 120s on the front. I would say, yeah. I mean, it's fine. I mean, if you're going to add a graphic card, definitely have some sort of extra airflow in there would be better because that space is really tight for the graphic card. So I would say I have to go with, yeah, add an extra fan or two, have an extra few fan headers. Definitely go, you know, modular power supply. So there are going to be a little bit of a change and a trade-off, but you see the price of the difference between those two are not that bad. It's not as bad as going to, let's say, an ITX motherboard. An ITX motherboard would be a lot more expensive. I already know that most of the new motherboards, the price difference is like, you know, 60 and up at least for maybe even $100 difference between the ITX and micro ATX. So I would probably recommend if you're going to go that route, and if you do want to go micro ATX, you could do that. That would obviously give you a little more space, even more at the bottom of the case, to maybe add some sort of extra water cooling at the bottom if you want to do like an all-in-one water cooler. I don't recommend usually putting it at the bottom. I usually recommend putting it at the top of the case, but it'll still work at the bottom, just probably not as good. Yeah, you did mention an aqua fan earlier. What I meant by aqua fan, I mean water cooling. Water cooling you can do. You can do an all-in-one water cooler. All-in-one water coolers would be the easiest to install. Regular water cooling, I don't know if you're going to really fit a whole bunch of stuff in here. You'd have to go with if you want to do like a custom water cooling, this is really not the case for that. I don't think you have enough mount area for it to mount all of this stuff in here. You'd have to have a really small reservoir, very small amount of a small reservoir, a small pump for it to pump all that water through. Honestly, an all-in-one water cooler would be easier to do. It would just still be pretty hard to manage the cables a little bit, but again, you can mount to the top, you can mount to the front, you could even mount to the bottom if you had a mini ITX motherboard. So if you're going to spend that kind of money anyway, you could probably just spend a few bucks more and get a mini ITX motherboard to fit in here and to make it all fit nicely. But if you have that kind of money to spend for all-in-one water cooling, you could probably have enough room on your desk to fit something a little bit bigger. And I would probably recommend you just get something a little bigger that'll be easier to build in. Yeah, space is a major concern here. I mean, this is obviously a very, very small unit. So, but it does have proper filtering. It does have proper airflow. It does have a lot of airflow. I mean, oops, I'm shaking the camera there. So, wow. It does have top airflow. It has side airflow. You really have a lot on this case that you can, you know, that you could pretty much guarantee that you have enough flow of air. It's just making sure that maybe having a, you know, an actual fan for this, since it doesn't come with a fan, to input some more air through the front. I would definitely put more air through the front than the back of the case. This is causing it to cause problems. So, you know, I would recommend you definitely put more, you know, intake air through the front or through the bottom. You could also pull up some air from the bottom, or a little bit of cold air from the bottom. Exhaust, I'm not really too concerned more about, because the exhaust, you still have a power supply here that is obviously taking air in and then pushing air out. Hot air usually goes out with no problem. It's usually getting the cold air in is usually 90% of the issues. So, but you will end up with a little more dust. You'll end up with a little bit more dust on the covers itself. But again, the covers are so easy to take off on this and blow them out. And you know, it's got a micro cover here. There's no extra filter on this side. This is the filter. You know what I mean? So it's only pushing air through this thin little dots. I mean, for a regular system, this should be fine. If you're doing a lot of, like if you're doing overclocking or something, definitely not. This is not the system for that. You need a lot more airflow for that. But this is probably fine for a regular workstation, regular usage, not a big deal. Yeah, I think this is a good decision. I just think I wish it didn't come damaged. That's another problem. But they're shipping me another one. So, but the thing is, I would probably say it has its use case. And that use case is good for a bunch of different things. If you have a desk that really has no space, this is really a good option, because you probably are not using an overly loaded system anyway. But if you're using something with a high-end graphic card, you may want to think about something different, just because of space issues. So, all right, guys, this is about it. I mean, we're not going to be able to boot anything. I don't know where my test graphic card is. It's probably buried somewhere. But yeah, even if we put the test graphic card in here, it's going to be a little tight. Not that bad though. It'll fit, with no issue. It does have how many slots back here? 4, I think. 4. So there's 4 slots in the back. So you can go like a 3.5 deep card with no issue. So, and most cards that are going to go into this kind of unit would be like your 4060 or something like that. A max. You really wouldn't go like a 4090 in here. That would be stupid. It just really probably won't even fit, because it would probably be a 3-lane card and be way too short here. But yeah, I mean, it's good for like a medium grade workstation, if that makes sense. You don't really need to go that insane here. Let me get rid of this Corsair thing. Maybe that's flipping it out. Whatever. So yeah, this is the Jonsbo C6 series. It's a great looking case. It fits pretty much a standard board, standard power supply. If you do go with it though, think smaller components, think less cables. You may want to get something that's modular. That would definitely fit better in here. And, enjoy the computer for what it is. It really is a small amount of case. You'll definitely have a lot more space on your desk if you went with something like this compared to like an H17. An H17 is bigger, so it would take up a lot more space. And some of our customers really just want the space. They don't really need a high-end machine. This is great for a medium build, and I say medium performance. I wouldn't recommend anything really high-end. I do like the fact that they have rubber stoppers in the side corners like this. If you're doing like a LAN party, this would be pretty good for a LAN party. If you could just put in, let's say, a smaller graphic card, you could probably fit that in there with no problem. It will definitely last you out, a good 7-8 hours of, LAN party. It is small enough to carry in a small backpack. You could probably put this in a backpack. It's not that heavy. It's not that big. You could probably fit in a backpack. They also sell a model with a handle on the top. So if you don't want to put it in a backpack, you could just get the one with the handle or strap on it. Or you could just take this apart and wrap something around these handles. It's the same thing. And, you got a handle for it. So, all right, guys, I'm going to call this a day at this point, but I think this is a very positive case. I don't think we have too many problems with it. I think there's not too many trade-offs in comparison to a lot of other cases I've seen. Fractal makes some small cases as well, but they're really they're a little tighter than this. So they're a little harder to build in. You also need to go, you definitely have to go mini ITX on those. This you could still do a micro ATX board, which is very standard. So. All right, guys, till the next one. I'm going to get out of here, but we'll see you in the next live stream. We have some builds coming up hopefully soon, and we get some videos also releasing in the next week or two. So be sure to stay subscribed. See you soon.